There's a kind of silence that falls between two people who love each other, but don't know what comes next. Not the silence of boredom, not the silence of disconnection, but the silence that lingers in the spaces where unspoken questions live. Do we keep going? Is this forever? Or is this just for now? In a world where everyone seems to have a timeline for everything, when to date, when to propose, when to marry, some of us are just stuck. Not because we don't love, but because we're scared that maybe love isn't enough. You meet someone. They make you laugh like no one else. They listen. They hold space for your chaos. They see the parts of you that you've hidden from everyone else, and they stay. So you stay too. And slowly, piece by piece, you build something. Not just memories, but a rhythm. A shared toothbrush holder. A favorite takeout place. Inside jokes. Worn-out hoodies that no longer belong to one person. Maybe even a pet you raised together. And in your heart, it feels like home. But then one day, the question comes up. Maybe it's over dinner. Maybe it's when someone else gets engaged. Maybe it's after your 5th anniversary. Maybe it's when one of you says softly but seriously, "So, do you ever think about marriage?" And suddenly the air shifts. Because deep down, you know it's not a new question. You've both been thinking about it for a while. But thinking is safe. Saying it out loud means you have to choose. And choice means risk. What if we get married and lose the spark? What if we start resenting each other? What if forever changes us, or worse? What if we find out we were never meant for forever in the first place? You don't say these things. Not all at once. Maybe not ever. But they live in the space between holding hands and pulling away. In the moments when "I love you" comes too easily, and "let's talk about the future" comes too hard. It's not that you don't love them. You do. Maybe more than anyone you've ever loved before. But love doesn't always arrive with a checklist. It doesn't always demand a wedding dress or matching rings. And so you ask yourself the question that keeps you awake at night. Can we love each other deeply and still not get married? Because no one really tells you this. It's possible to love someone with your whole heart and still not want to marry them. Not because they're wrong for you, but because marriage in this world, in this time in your life, feels like a weight, not a vow. And yet, you see the way their face lights up when someone calls them your partner. You feel the tension when their friends start asking questions. You hear the silence when they stare at their phone after another engagement post. And you wonder, are you holding them back? Are they waiting for something you'll never give? Or are you both just trying to rewrite what love means outside the expectations you were handed? Because maybe, just maybe, love doesn't have to end in a wedding. Maybe it's enough to show up every day. To choose each other over and over. To grow without a contract. To stay. Not because you're legally bound, but because your heart keeps saying yes. Still, the question lingers, and it will return again. At birthdays, family dinners, baby showers. It will sit in the back seat of your shared car. It will echo through the walls of your shared apartment. Until one day, you have to answer it. Not for the world, not for your parents, not for Instagram, but for the two of you. The only ones who truly know what this love feels like on the inside. And maybe then you'll realize that the depth of your love was never the question. The real question was always, what kind of future are we brave enough to build together? Let's be honest. It's not that our generation doesn't believe in love. We believe in it so deeply that we question everything that might distort it. And marriage sometimes feels like one of those things. We grew up watching too many people stay married for the wrong reasons. Parents who stopped speaking to each other but stayed in the same house. Aunts who lost their dreams somewhere between diapers and dinner. Uncles who disappeared into silence, their names spoken only in arguments. We saw what marriage could do to people. Not always beautifully, sometimes bitterly. So we learned to be careful, to protect our love from what might ruin it. We're also the generation of uncertainty. The ones who saw the economy crash just as we stepped into adulthood. We're told to chase our dreams, but also pay our bills. We're asked to start families, but also hustle through side gigs. Buy houses we can't afford. raise kids we're not ready for, smile while juggling debt burnout and endless comparison. In a world where everything feels so unstable, love becomes our anchor, and marriage, it feels like a gamble. For many of us, love is sacred because it's chosen, not because it's signed, not because it's posted on Facebook, not because there was a party with white dresses and champagne, but because every day we wake up and choose each other again. Isn't that more powerful? And then there's the fear of losing ourselves. Because let's be real, the world still asks women to carry more than men, still tells us how to dress, behave, birth, and belong, still celebrates men for helping while expecting women to sacrifice. So we hesitate. We ask, if I marry him, will I stop being me? Or if I marry her, will the expectations drown me? We're not cold, we're cautious, not heartless, just honest. We don't want a marriage that cages us. We want a partnership that frees us. But here's the catch. The more we try to protect love from the weight of tradition, the more we risk losing the deeper intimacy that only long-term commitment can bring. Because while marriage is not a requirement, commitment still asks for something sacred, something inconvenient, something demanding, something holy. And this is where many couples get stuck. We don't want the pressure, but we crave the security. We don't want to follow a system, but we still long for something sacred and shared. We want independence, but we also want someone to come home to forever. And so we linger in the middle, half in, half terrified. Not because we don't love deeply, but because we love deeply enough to question whether marriage will honor that love or smother it. And in this questioning, we begin to discover a hard truth, that loving someone in today's world isn't just about romance. It's about reimagining what partnership really means when tradition doesn't fit and expectations no longer define us. So no, it's not that we don't want to marry. We just don't want to marry wrong. We don't want to marry because we're supposed to. We want to marry because we're ready. Because it makes our love stronger, not smaller. And until then, we're allowed to stay here, in the space between I do and do I have to. Holding love gently, bravely, and on our own terms. There's a moment in almost every love story when people start watching you a little too closely. They ask subtle questions. They make little jokes. So, when's the big day? Are you two finally tying the knot? Asking for a friend, should I be saving the date? They mean well, but you can feel the pressure behind the laughter. The hidden message that still clings to every fairy tale, every rom-com, every tradition handed down like gospel love doesn't count unless it ends in a wedding. But what if that's never been true? What if real love, deep, lasting, soul-matching love, was never about diamond rings, legal documents, or ceremonies with white dresses and awkward speeches? What if real love was quiet, uncelebrated, unseen? What if it was built in whispered apologies after arguments? In staying on the days when leaving would have been easier? In laughter during laundry and affection in silence? We've been taught that marriage is the destination, that if you don't get there, something's unfinished, incomplete, like a sentence missing its period. But some of the strongest, most resilient, most beautiful love stories don't come with a wedding at the end. Some don't come with any ending at all, because maybe love isn't meant to be completed. Maybe it's meant to be lived. There are couples who never married, yet built lives of unimaginable depth. They held each other through death and birth, through illness and grace, through seasons of joy and heartbreak. They didn't wear wedding rings, but they wore each other's names in every decision, every plan, every dream. And there are others, many others, who married early, married young, married fast. Because they thought that was the next step. Because they were told that's what you do when love is real. Only to find that love, when rushed into a box, shrinks, wilts, disappears under the pressure of roles they weren't ready to play. So no marriage is not the proof of love. It can be an expression of love, yes. A celebration, a sacred commitment, a beautiful beginning. But it is not the definition. And it is certainly not the requirement. Love defines itself. Sometimes it lives in the same last name. Sometimes it lives in a shared Spotify playlist, a favorite corner of the couch, a weekend ritual at the local cafe. Sometimes it lives in long-distance letters, in co-parenting friendships, in blended families, in unexpected forms that don't fit the wedding album. And yes, sometimes it lives in the heart of someone who would marry you tomorrow, but knows that today you're still figuring out who you are, still healing, still learning how to love without losing yourself. So don't let the world rush you. Don't let the highlight reels of strangers tell you your love is less than. Don't let tradition shame you into believing that only marriage makes love real. Ask yourself instead, does this love make you more you? Does it make you softer, stronger, safer? Do you grow here? Are you heard? Are you brave in love even on hard days? Because that is the measure. Not the ring, not the title, not the party. And if one day marriage becomes the next step, let it be a step you choose, not one you chase. Let it be a celebration of something already strong, not a patch to fix what's broken. Let it be honest. Let it be true. Let it be for you, not for them. Until then, know this. Your love is already whole if it is real. And nothing, no missing paper, no absence of ceremony can take that away. Sometimes the scariest part of love isn't falling in. It's standing still and wondering where to go from here. You're not fighting. You're not breaking. But you feel something shifting. Like two people on the same road who suddenly realize they may want different destinations. And no one wants to be the first to say it out loud. Because how do you admit that deep love doesn't always mean shared futures? We're taught to believe that if it feels real, if it feels strong, then the rest will fall into place. But love is not a map. And sometimes the more you love someone, the harder it is to accept the truth that love alone might not be enough to hold you together. So how do you know? How do you know when it's time to marry or when it's time to walk away? You marry when the person beside you is not just your heart's home, but your life's partner. When they're not perfect, but they show up when it matters. When conversations aren't always easy, but you fight fair. You stay kind. You grow. You marry when the version of you that shows up in their presence is the version you're proud of. When you faced your own shadows, so you don't project them onto each other. When your definitions of family success, faith, money, future aren't identical but compatible. Willing. Flexible. Respected. You marry when you've had the hard talks. The ones about kids, debt, therapy, triggers, boundaries, what scares you, what you need, what you cannot pretend to be okay with. You marry when both of you choose each other, not out of fear, not because time is running out, not because you're afraid to start over, but because this person, this life is the one you're ready to build together. And if none of that is true yet, it's okay not to marry. It's okay to say I love you, but I'm not ready. It's okay to say we've grown so much, but we're not growing in the same direction anymore. It's okay to step away, not out of anger, but out of clarity, out of honesty, out of love still. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is to walk away while the love is still warm before it turns into bitterness, before it curdles into blame. Some people come into your life not to stay forever, but to show you what's possible, to teach you how to love better, to mirror parts of yourself you couldn't see, to awaken pieces of your soul. Not every love is meant to end in marriage, and not every ending is a failure. Some are graduations, some are sacred releases, some are the kindest gift you can give each other. You can leave and still be grateful. You can part ways and still honor what you had. You can stop holding hands and still carry their kindness in your story. So if you're here in the middle, wondering whether to stay or go or commit or pause, ask yourself this. Is this love helping you become more of who you are? Do you both want the same future? Or are you pretending not to see the cracks? Are you still choosing each other freely or just out of habit? And most of all, if marriage never came up again, would you still feel safe here? If the answer is yes, build something beautiful. If the answer is no, be honest. Because the love that's real enough to marry is also real enough to respect even in goodbye.